Just days before the largest World Cup ever created, FIFA is confronting a possibility that once seemed impossible. Not empty stadiums, not unfinished venues, not security concerns. Something far more unsettling. Across Europe, a growing number of supporters are quietly making the same decision. They are choosing not to come. For generations, attending a World Cup was considered the ultimate football pilgrimage. Fans crossed oceans, emptied savings accounts, and followed their teams wherever the tournament went. But ahead of 2026, something has changed. Across Germany, the Netherlands, France, Belgium, and beyond, conversations are taking place that FIFA never expected to hear. Not about who will win the World Cup, not about which superstar will dominate the tournament, but whether attending the tournament is even worth the sacrifice anymore. Rising costs, travel uncertainty, visa concerns, and growing frustration with FIFA have combined into something much larger than a simple complaint. What began as dissatisfaction is slowly becoming resistance. And for the first time in modern World Cup history, football's governing body is facing a threat that cannot be solved by selling more tickets or signing more sponsors, because the people considering staying home are not casual spectators. They are the supporters who helped build the atmosphere that made the World Cup the greatest sporting event on Earth. The football world is about to discover what happens when the fans themselves begin to push back. This is not a boycott in the traditional sense. No national team is refusing to play, no federation is officially withdrawing, yet FIFA may be facing something equally damaging: a silent boycott driven by ordinary supporters. Across Europe, supporter groups have increasingly questioned whether the modern World Cup still belongs to football fans. The frustration extends far beyond one country. In the Netherlands, supporter campaigns gained significant traction online. In Germany, football officials publicly acknowledged concerns about accessibility. Across France and Belgium, supporters openly debated whether the cost and complexity of attending 2026 could be justified. The message emerging from these discussions was remarkably similar. Fans no longer feel like participants in football's the greatest celebration. They increasingly feel like customers being asked to pay premium prices for an experience that becomes more complicated every 4 years. FIFA can dismiss criticism from journalists. It can ignore online outrage. What becomes far harder to ignore is a growing segment of the fan base choosing not to participate. The World Cup was built on emotion, passion, community, shared memories. If supporters begin disengaging from that experience, FIFA faces a challenge that cannot be measured by television ratings alone. For many supporters, the decision comes down to simple mathematics. The dream remains the same, the cost does not. Following a national team at previous World Cups was expensive but achievable for many middle-class supporters. In 2026, the financial reality looks very different. Match tickets represent only the first obstacle. Flights across North America remain costly. Hotels in host cities often charge premium rates. Transportation between venues can require thousands of miles of travel, additional flights, additional accommodation, additional days off work. For families, the numbers quickly become overwhelming. Supporters who spent years planning their World Cup trip suddenly discovered that attending several matches could cost as much as a major family holiday. Some fans have openly admitted that they would rather watch from home than spend enormous sums on a tournament that increasingly feels designed for corporate clients and high-income travelers. That perception may be FIFA's biggest problem. Football supporters have accepted expensive tournaments before. What they struggle to accept is the feeling that they are no longer the priority. The World Cup was supposed to bring football closer to the world. Many supporters now believe it is drifting further away. For many supporters, the decision comes down to simple mathematics. The dream remains the same, the cost does not. Following a national team at previous World Cups was expensive, but achievable for many middle-class supporters. In 2026, the financial reality looks very different. Match tickets represent only the first obstacle. Flights across North America remain costly. Hotels in host cities often charge premium rates. Transportation between venues can require thousands of miles of travel, additional flights, additional accommodation, additional days off work. For families, the numbers quickly become overwhelming. Supporters who spent years planning their World Cup trip suddenly discover that attending several matches could cost as much as a major family holiday. Some fans have openly admitted that they would rather watch from home than spend enormous sums on a tournament that increasingly feels designed for corporate clients and high-income travelers. That perception may be FIFA's biggest problem. Football supporters have accepted expensive tournaments before. What they struggle to accept is the feeling that they are no longer the priority. The World Cup was supposed to bring football closer to the world. Many supporters now believe it is drifting further away. Money is only part of the story. Trust may be the bigger issue. Many supporters can save for a World Cup. What they cannot control is uncertainty. Visa requirements remain a concern for fans from numerous countries. Travel rules can change. Entry procedures can become more complicated. Supporters planning trips months in advance often face unanswered questions, and uncertainty has consequences. Fans delay bookings. They hesitate. They wait. Then eventually, some abandon the idea altogether. Across multiple host cities, businesses prepared for a wave of international visitors unlike anything they had seen before. Hotels expanded staffing, restaurants increased capacity. Local authorities invested heavily in preparation, yet reports from several areas suggested booking trends were not matching the most optimistic projections. The issue was never whether people wanted to watch football, the issue was whether supporters felt confident enough to commit. FIFA built a tournament dependent on global participation. But participation requires trust. And trust becomes fragile when uncertainty begins dominating the conversation. The 2026 World Cup is not simply bigger, it is fundamentally different. 48 teams, 104 matches, 3 host nations, thousands of miles separating venues. FIFA views this expansion as the future of football. Critics see it as an enormous gamble. Previous World Cups created a sense of concentration. Fans traveled together. Cities became football capitals overnight. Entire nations gathered in shared spaces. The 2026 format changes that dynamic. Following a team may require crossing huge distances multiple times during the tournament. Supporters worry that the World Cup experience could become fragmented, less communal, less spontaneous, less connected. The concern is not necessarily about football quality. The players will still produce extraordinary moments. The concern is whether the tournament atmosphere can survive such enormous scale. Bigger tournaments generate bigger revenues, but football's greatest moments rarely come from financial spreadsheets. They come from packed streets, crowded fan zones, and supporters creating memories together. FIFA believes expansion will strengthen the competition. Its critics fear the opposite. History suggests FIFA will probably survive this challenge. The organization has weathered controversies for decades: political disputes, corruption scandals, security concerns, human rights criticism. Time and again, football eventually reclaimed the headlines. The tournament itself has a remarkable ability to overpower controversy. Once the opening whistle blows, supporters focus on goals, drama, and unforgettable moments. That pattern will likely repeat in 2026. The quality of football should be extraordinary. New stars will emerge, legendary matches will be played, millions will fall in love with the tournament all over again. But survival is not the same as success. A World Cup can break revenue records while simultaneously damaging supporter relationships. It can generate massive audiences while leaving loyal fans frustrated. FIFA may successfully deliver another spectacular tournament, yet the organization must still confront an uncomfortable reality. The criticism surrounding 2026 did not emerge from enemies of football. It emerged from people who love the game enough to care about its future, and those voices are becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. In just a few days, the debate will finally collide with reality. Stadium lights will switch on, national anthems will echo across North America, Mexico City will explode with emotion. Toronto and Vancouver will welcome supporters from around the world. The football itself will almost certainly be unforgettable. It always is. Yet long after the champion lifts the trophy, another question may remain. Was this the World Cup that pushed the limits of expansion too far? Or was it the moment FIFA finally realized that supporters cannot be taken for granted? Because this story was never really about a boycott. It was about a warning. A warning from the very people who transformed the World Cup into a global phenomenon. Fans are not asking for luxury. They are not asking for perfection. They are asking for accessibility, affordability, and a tournament that still feels like it belongs to them. FIFA has built the biggest World Cup in history, but size alone cannot create atmosphere. Money alone cannot create passion. And marketing alone cannot create trust. The football will survive. The World Cup will survive. The question that remains unanswered is whether FIFA is listening before the road to 2030 begins.